You think you know the story of Little Red Riding Hood, a sweet girl, a forest, a hungry wolf, a warning about talking to strangers. But that version is only the harmless shell of a myth that once carried humanity's oldest fears. Because the tale was never truly about a wolf. It was about a cult, a ritual, and a 7,000-year-old initiation ceremony older than kingdoms and writing itself. To uncover the real meaning, we must go back beyond medieval Europe, Rome, and Greece, back to the Stone Age world of the Proto-Indo-Europeans living between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. They were warriors, nomads, and herders who worshipped wolves as ancestors and gods. They believed boys had to symbolically become wolves to join the warrior brotherhoods that protected their tribe. For thousands of years across Europe and Asia, secret societies of wolfmen existed. Norse Elefachnar fought in a trance, believing they had become wolves. Roman Luperci ran through the streets wearing wolfskins during Lupercalia. In the Caucasus, initiates donned wolf masks and lived in forests to sever their human identity. Even the word lycanthropy began as a ritual term, not an illness. In these ancient rites, children were led into the woods as part of initiation. They were told stories about wolves to prepare them for transformation. Those who endured returned, changed, ready for adulthood. And those who failed disappeared into the forest forever. This is the heartbeat of Red Riding Hood, a survival test, a coming-over ordeal, a warning encoded across generations. The earliest known version of the story from medieval France is shockingly different. There is no red cloak, no basket, no woodcutter, and no rescue. The girl meets a wolf who asks her to choose between the path of pins or the path of needles. To medieval listeners, these symbols clearly referenced the journey from girlhood to womanhood. In the oldest versions, the wolf reaches the grandmother first. He kills her, places her flesh in a bowl, and her blood in a bottle. When the girl arrives, he invites her to eat and drink, and she obeys without knowing the truth. This echoes ancient rites of consuming symbolic ancestral flesh to break childhood innocence and absorb adult knowledge. Cannibalism in myth, especially in ancient initiation rites, didn't always represent horror. Sometimes it symbolized transformation and becoming more than human. In these stories, eating the ancestors' flesh symbolized rebirth into a new identity. And in this ritual logic, the wolf wasn't a monster. He was a teacher, an initiator, a gatekeeper. Then comes the moment modern versions erase. The wolf tells the girl to remove her clothes and throw them into the fire. She asks why, and he replies, "Because you won't need them anymore." This refers directly to discarding childhood identity before entering adulthood. Fire consumes her past. The wolf prepares to reshape her future. In many old tellings, the girl enters the bed with the wolf. Instead of screaming, she questions him and delays him, noticing his claws and yellow eyes. And in some versions, she escapes by tricking him. She asks to step outside to relieve herself, ties his rope to a tree, and runs. She saves herself without any male savior. So, where did the red cloak originate? It appears centuries later and carries deep symbolism. Red is the color of menstruation, fertility, and sexual maturity. The cloak signaled that the girl was entering womanhood and entering danger, because wolves in medieval symbolism were metaphors for predatory men soldiers, merchants, bandits, even clergy. The red cloak also echoed ritual garments worn in ancient wolf cults. Initiates sometimes wore red to symbolize blood sacrifice or rebirth. In these older versions, the wolf wasn't a villain. He was the initiator, the tester, the being who determined whether a child was ready to join adulthood. This is why early variants do not condemn the wolf. They fear him and respect him, but they do not judge him morally. He symbolizes nature's harshness, the threshold between childhood and adulthood, and the danger one must face to transform. He is the trial every young person must confront. When the Brothers Grimm rewrote the story in the 1800s, Europe feared wilderness and wild animals. Wolves had been hunted nearly to extinction, and Christian authorities despised pagan cult echoes. So the Grimms rewrote the tale into a simple moral lesson about obedience, sin, and rescue by male authority. The wolf became a cartoonish villain. The girl became passive, helpless, and dependent on a huntsman for salvation. But older versions refused to disappear. They lived on in rural, oral traditions, where girls saved themselves and sometimes even joined the wolf. These versions remembered truths too old to erase. In the early 2000s, researchers studied linguistic patterns across ancient cultures. They found initiation wolf stories in Iranian, Slavic, Norse, Celtic, Baltic, and Germanic traditions. Tales of children led into forests, wearing wolfskins, eating ritual meals, facing predatory guardians, and returning reborn, not returning at all. Red Riding Hood is the last surviving ember of this mythic family. So what is the real meaning of the tale? It is not about obedience or avoiding strangers. It is about confronting danger, crossing the threshold of adulthood, and facing the symbolic predator guarding that boundary. It is a myth about humanity's ancient relationship with wolves, both real and metaphorical. The wolf embodies power, instinct, violence, transformation, fear, and desire. He is not merely a monster, he is the test. Every culture that told this story understood his symbolic weight. He represents the forces a child must face to become an adult, both inside themselves and in the world. The modern softened story hides this truth, but the ancient message survives. Everyone must choose the path of pins or needles, symbolic routes to adulthood. A ritual rooted in human survival, echoing the firelit rites of wolf cults thousands of years old. A reminder that every generation must confront the darkness in the woods end inside themselves. The wolf cults disappeared long ago, but their myth remained, hidden in a cloak, a path, a conversation with a predator. And each time the story is told, that ancient ritual breathes again. A whisper from the past, a memory of who we were, a reminder of who we must become when we enter the woods and meet the wolf waiting for us.